Notice this is all rolled up. Well, since it's cold, these develop a memory, and the hose will want to continually coil back to that memory. So one of the first things you want to do is stretch this hose out in the sun. You can weight it at either end, and that will take that memory out of it. Leave it in the sun, nice warm sun for a few hours. That'll take the memory out. We don't have time for that today, because I just wanted to show you how to do this. This is the universal wall fitting. We have the inline filter. We have hose floats, swivels. One thing about these swivels, they are directional, believe it or not. If you look right here, there is an arrow on that swivel. You want to make sure the arrow is going with the directional flow. Got another hose swivel. This is part of the leader hose. The leader hose goes from this last swivel to the cleaner, and we're going to be adjusting this. I'm going to be showing you how to adjust that. And then we have a couple hose floats. Got a backup valve. I'll show you a little bit more about these. This is the insides of your backup valve. This can be replaced if ever needed. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut the leader hose. The leader hose, again, is the part that actually connects to the cleaner right here. It goes on right there, the nut. And by the way, on these nuts, the nut always goes hard plastic first, hose over the top there, and then you thread back up over the hose. So many times I see where people put the nut up here and they try to thread this way and it doesn't work. It needs to go onto the hard plastic. That's the same with your swivels, with your backup valve. Notice the direction of the backup valve. This points towards the cleaner. Typical flow, water will flow through the backup valve to the cleaner, and then once every 3 minutes or so, this reverses flow, and all that pressure, instead of going to the cleaner, it goes to here. So if the cleaner is stuck in a corner somewhere, this will kick on and drag the cleaner off. That's the whole purpose of this. With this missing, typically you'll have a cleaner that gets stuck a lot. Okay, the first thing we want to do is cut this leader hose to the right length. This leader hose, again, this is the part that goes to the cleaner. You want the leader hose to be the same length as the depth of the pool. So you can take your pool pole, put it down in the deepest part of the pool, mark it, or I just happen to know, because I built this pool is 6 feet deep. I know that for a fact. It comes up to right here on me, just barely over my head. So what I'm going to measure 6 feet, and that's where I'm going to cut the leader hose. The leader hose, you never cut this section. This is the proper distance. This comes factory. It's 33 inches from the cleaner to the backup valve. So that you do not cut that, but we know the pool is 6 feet deep. So we're going to go to 6 feet, which is right here. I'm going to go ahead and just mark that with the float, so I know to cut right there. So that is 6 feet. That's the proper length of the leader hose. I like taking this float and pushing it down towards the backup valve. That way this helps keep the backup valve suspended up in the water and not dragging it around on the bottom of the pool when it gets in the shallow. It helps keep it above the cleaner as opposed to being dragged behind the cleaner. Because when you start messing these up by dragging them around, it becomes a real problem. And these are very expensive. I guess anywhere from $60 to $100 is what people are paying if they're getting Polaris original or a knockoff brand. But they are very expensive, so you do want to make sure that you're protecting this. Okay. So this is now 6 feet. That's going towards the cleaner. Just going to push this on here. Notice the nuts on the swivel. Okay, now we're going to cut the entire hose to length, and you really need to follow these instructions. I see a lot of issues with cleaners because these instructions are not followed, so make sure you pay attention to this. All right, now we're going to install the universal wall fitting, where this part threads into the wall, and then this attaches into that. So all I'm going to do is just thread it in. All right, so now my furthest point in the pool is that corner over there right by the cleaner. So let's stretch it out. So now I need to stretch the hose out and get the furthest point in the pool, which is actually this point, but there's a bench here and I don't want the cleaner getting up here. So this will end up being the furthest point in the pool that I want to go to. So I measure past that point, how far I go past my furthest point, and I want to go 6 inches past that point. So when we measure the hose, we're at 46 inches past the furthest point, so we subtract 6 inches from that. So 40 inches is what I need to cut off the end of the hose. The final length of this hose should equal 6 inches past the furthest point where we want the Polaris to go. So on this particular hose, it was 40 inches too long. So we need to take 40 inches off this entire length of hose. The leader hose is cut to the proper length, so we don't cut there. So we measure from this swivel to the inline filter needs to be shortened by 40 inches. And the way we do that is we go to this middle section, this swivel right there. We need to shorten the hose by 40 inches. So we cut 20 inches on this side, 20 inches on this side, reconnect the swivel, and then our hose should be at the proper length. All right, let's talk about our universal wall fitting and our filter screen. Now, this universal wall fitting, this part threads into the wall. I got it out here just for demonstration. But if you look inside there, you got two little knobbies. See those little knobbies? Well, this has got two little grooves. So when this goes into the wall, you turn it and you'll feel it kind of fall into place. Then you push and turn until you can't turn anymore, pull it out, and you've locked it into place. Now, if you have a filter screen here and you have the inline screen, get rid of this filter screen. The purpose of that filter screen is to catch debris. Now, they didn't used to have the inline screen. If you don't have an inline screen, then you need this one, but you need to check that occasionally. Pull this out of the wall, see if you have any debris in that screen. Because on these screens, if you're getting debris into these screens, that means you have a problem in your filter. Address the cause, stop treating the symptom. If your debris is getting in here, you need to figure out why are you getting debris in there, and it's most likely a filter issue. If debris is getting past the debris screen, it will get into the cleaner, clog up the cleaner, and cause you a lot of problems. So you want to make sure this is in good shape. If it's blown out, torn, or anything like that, you want to make sure you replace it. So you want to make sure that you only got one, and this is the preferred one because you don't even have to pull it out of the wall to check it. Now this is a pressure relief system. You can tighten this and loosen this, but guys, this is pretty much set to factory. These booster pumps only put out so much water, and the amount of water they put out is made to be the proper amount for these cleaners. So rarely do you have issues in here where you need to be adjusting this. But if it is too much pressure, you will have water spraying out of here, and it's meant to do that. Don't think this is broke. If your cleaner is moving properly, and you should be getting about 32 revolutions per minute on your wheels, then this is fine. Stop adjusting this, stop messing with this. This is made to allow excess pressure come out of it. Okay, let's talk about the 280 head unit. All right, first of all, this is the ballast float. The purpose of the ballast float is it pulls the tail up because this is light, it's full of air. It pulls the tail up, which pushes the nose down. If you ever see your cleaner riding wheelies like this ballast float may have gone bad. So you can just basically screw it off, shake it. If it has water in it, it's bad, needs to be replaced. These are readily available. You can pick them up at any Pool Works or other retail locations. When you replace these, you basically thread about, this is rule of thumb, thumb's width. Right there is about where you need to be when you thread these back on. Now this is your tail. This is the difference between the Polaris 280 and the TR28P. TR28P comes with the Tail Sweep Pro. If you just got a 280 and it does not have the Tail Sweep Pro, I highly recommend that you get it. This diverts the flow. When the flow is coming out of here, it's one of the problems with pressure side cleaners. They have a tail, because the tail is important. It does the scrubbing action as the cleaner is going around. Well, without this, it creates a solid stream that will shoot 30-40 feet. So when you put a Tail Sweep Pro on here, it kind of fans that out, so you don't get a long jet, and you actually get a pretty good whipping action. But you want to protect these with a tail scrubber. These are available again at any retail location, Polaris or any other retail location. These protect this because these are expensive. The Tail Sweep Pro is about 28 bucks. These are cheap. You just replace these occasionally when they get wore out. You want to make sure that you keep a good tail scrubber on there. These are wear rings. These are protect the tail. Now these will wear out over time, and when they're gone, you will wear out the tail. So if these are wearing out and you're starting to get holes in your tail, you want to go ahead and replace the tail on your cleaner. What I like to do, by the way, on these wear rings, I'll take one off and I'll put it on my hose. And then my bag, I have this fitting that I like to use. This comes with the cleaner that clips over the hose, so I can Velcro to that instead of Velcroing around the hose, and I don't have to continually undo that Velcro, because you know how Velcro eventually stops doing its thing. Well, I can just go to this and just clip this on and off. But I'll take that wear ring off a tail and put it up, oh, you know, about, I don't know, what is that, 9 inches, 10 inches up on the hose, and that will lock the bag up, so the bag's less likely to get tangled up into the wheels. Also, a benefit of getting the TR28P, which is the Pro version that you can get at most independent retail locations like Poolworks, is you do get a second bag. These bags are expensive, and you're going to be going through them quite a bit. The benefit of getting the TR28P is you get the Tail Sweep Pro and you get a second bag. So that's almost $100 in value. All right, the screw right here regulates flow into the tail. Now, if you can thread it in, it's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, righty less flow, lefty more flow. The more you thread it in, the less flow you get to the tail. So if you have too much action on the tail or it's spraying out too much, you can thread this in and restrict some of that flow. If you're not getting enough action, you can thread it out. Now, this jet, this thrust jet, typically what we find is 10 o'clock position works on most of our pulls. Now, that may not be every pull, but playing with the direction of this will adjust how big your sweep circles are as the cleaner is moving about the pool. So, like I said, our average pull, we find that the 10 o'clock position works best for us. One of the biggest problems we have with Polaris cleaners, or anybody's pressure side cleaners, is the tires. Y'all aren't replacing tires when they need to be replaced. And when these tires wear down, the cleaner runs closer to the surface of the plaster or the vinyl or whatever, and we end up wearing the bottom out much, much faster. And on the 280, we have a shaft that runs from here to here. It drives this wheel and this wheel. So if I turn either one of those, that wheel turns. But the tire rubs up against the center wheel rubs up against the back wheel. Therefore, when I turn this one has a drive that runs through that turns this one, but this one rubs against this one and turns it, which rubs against this one and turns it. Now, if your tires start wearing out, you having less surface touching on that, and you start getting slippage, and you're not getting the normal drive that you would have by all three wheels turning versus just these two wheels turning. And tires wearing out, you start wearing out the bottom of the cleaner a lot faster, and once you start busting up into there, now you got bigger problems. Now, notice there's a little bit of movement. I can get a little bit of wiggle. If you get to where you get a lot of wiggle on these wheels, you need to replace the bearings. Inside these wheels, there's 2 bearings in each wheel, one on the inside, one on the outside. These bearings are very important. They make the wheel run true. And if these bearings get worn out, the wheel can start running cockeyed. It can move back and forth on the shaft, and you stop getting the drive that you used to have, and the cleaner just becomes much less efficient, much less effective in your pull. So you can plan on having to replace bearings occasionally. You can plan on having to replace tires occasionally, replacing bags, once in a while a tail float. But here's the thing, y'all. Y'all running your cleaners too much. You may not be guilty. You that's listening around here, you may not be guilty, but many people are. This cleaner on the average pull is going to cover the entire pull in an hour, hour and a half. It's going to cover almost every last square inch. And running your cleaners 5, 6, 7 hours a day, all you're doing is wearing your cleaner out. If you vacuum the same spot on your rug 15 times versus vacuuming one time, are you going to notice much of a difference? All you're doing is wearing it out. And the booster pumps that run these cleaners, they cost you about $200 to $400 a year in electricity just to run these cleaners. So the more you run it, the more electricity it's costing you. And all these wear items that we're talking about, the bearings, the tires, you're wearing them out quicker. So you're having to buy more tires, you're having to buy more bearings, you're using more electricity. So don't only run these cleaners what it takes. If you've gotten a lot of leaves in your pool and you think you're going to run your cleaner for 6 hours and it's going to do a better job, this bag can only hold so many leaves. Once it's full, you're not picking up any more leaves. You're just rolling over the leaves. So running it just because you get a lot of debris isn't really helping you unless you're out there constantly emptying the bag. And then if that's happening, you probably need to get you a leaf master and hook up your water hose and clean them up that way. This is not for full pull cleaning. This is help just keep debris picked up on the daily basis, not when you have extreme circumstances. But appreciate y'all. Make sure that you like, make sure you subscribe, and y'all take care.